Welcome to Stoughton Media Access Cable. My name's Steve Kelley and I'm your host for today's Community Forum. In today's show, we have attorney Frank Crimmins, and he's going to be sharing a lot of great ideas about elder care and how we can take care of ourselves as we all mature and grow older. So welcome to the show, Frank.
Thanks, Steve.
All right.
Great to be here.
So what exactly is elder care? It's sort of a big name and it encompasses so many things.
Elder law would be used to describe that area of the law devoted to older people or people taking care of older people with respect to making sure they're not impoverished because of the cost of long-term care or any of their financial needs going forward. Yeah.
Now, that, without throwing you into the fire, so to speak,
Yeah.
I mean, and feel free to kind of like dance around this because it's such a difficult issue, what we call Obamacare. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Someone like myself, I'm totally confused by it.
Well, I'd say with respect to elders, the most significant part of Obamacare is what things will not be covered by Medicare. People that reach the age of 65 are covered by Medicare. And then people are advised to get supplemental coverage like a MedX plan to supplement what is not covered by Medicare. And then in addition to that, there are other plans that can assist with things that will not be covered, like prescription drugs and certain type of medical equipment. So when you talk about the significance of Obamacare, to come up with the money to fund Obamacare, which includes a lot of people otherwise that are not insured, there have to be cutbacks in certain other type of areas, and that's what concerns senior citizens. Then as we speak of elder care and as it applies to seniors, we're talking about their Social Security benefits, their benefits with respect to prescription drugs, separate and distinct from all the other things you do with documents and things like that, but their coverage. And then when people talk about nursing homes or nursing home liabilities, it is not a surprise to some, but it's a surprise to others that a nursing home is not covered by Medicare, and nursing home coverage is not covered by health care plans. So most seniors are covered by Medicare, and some seniors also have on top of Medicare private plans, but nursing homes or skilled nursing facilities are not covered by health insurance plans, and that is the big looming risk for people, because as we age, there is a great likelihood that we can be beset by any number of the health conditions that require a lot of care. And if that care is not available to us in our home, and if we do not have people that can facilitate us with that care, some folks have the only option of being cared for in a skilled nursing facility, and they find out that that costs a lot of money. And that is the risk, and that is the exposure, and that is what a lot of senior couples worry about. And if you can picture a senior couple living in their home, if one of the two in a spousal couple gets sick in a way that they have to go into a skilled nursing facility, obviously in that scenario, that particular elder is in a tough way, because they're talking about having to leave their home to be cared for in a skilled nursing facility. But in addition to that situation, the otherwise relatively healthy spouse has the problem of not becoming impoverished and being unable to maintain their standard of living in their ability to remain in their home. And the problem is that skilled nursing facilities in this state cost between $10,000 to $14,000 per month. That's per month. So even if you take the lower,
Yes.
and that's in 2014
That's
dollars.
$120,000 a year.
Yes, even if you take the lower end,
That's
it's $120,000 a year. And companies like MetLife, Genworth, and Hancock that deal with the product called long-term care insurance do market surveys. And in those market surveys, they come up with the average length of stay for people in skilled nursing facilities. And the average length of stay for a male in a skilled nursing facility is 3 years. So if you do the math out, even at the lower end of the range of 10 to 14,000. If you take 10,000 a month times
Right.
12 months, 120,000 per year times 3 years,
43,200?
there's an exposure of $360,000 for the average male length of stay in a skilled nursing facility, because the female has a 4-year length of stay, again at 120,000 per year. That's 480,000.
Wow.
That's the exposure, and most people don't have that type of money. Now, if you have no money at all, if you have no assets, you don't worry about it, because you will be eligible for the public financing of that care by Mass Health. If you have millions of dollars, you don't have to worry about it. You have to worry about your health, but you're not worried about paying your bills, because in that definition, you have plenty of money. But it's everybody in between, people that worked hard all their life to accumulate a little nest egg for themselves to live on, then hopefully to leave to their children when they pass. That's the issue for them, and that's what people worry about, because we live longer today. A baby born today in this state, with all the advances in medical care, has a life expectancy into their late 80s. And we have a system that's pretty much built around a system where people work and retired into their mid to late 60s. And the question is, how do you pay for that? Now, if people have been fortunate enough to save some money, they have made provisions to pay for their care. But it's very hard to come up with the cost of care, and that's one of the aspects of Obamacare for senior citizens in that population. Even on my own case, I'm a self-employed. I have a family plan. In 2012, I have a family plan. It's a nice plan by one of the major insurance companies. And in 2012, my monthly premium for our family was $1,700 a month. In 2013, that went to $2,100 a month. And now in 2014, my family plan has a monthly premium of $2,600 a month, $2,616 to be exact.
You cannot sustain those kind of increases.
Right, and that's a huge increase. That's what people are dealing with. I'm not the only one dealing with. We're all dealing with it. But as it affects that population that I serve with a lot of my clients, they're very concerned about keeping up with the cost of health care, and they haven't seen costs go down.
Right. So let me just retrace our steps here. I mean, you've kind of painted this grave image. It certainly is something that we all need to think about. So I want to get your expertise on how would, this show is supposedly for people that are older, but then their children have to start looking to take care of their parents, right? So it's really a show that would help a lot of generations or people. I want to get a couple of things from you. One thing is how does a family start that conversation? Something that you might be able to share with us. And then some strategies that you might suggest. And I also want to point out, you're kind enough to come on the show and share your expertise. Your company name is Ab Initio Elder Law Care Solutions. Is that correct?
Close.
Close. Well, give me the exact.
Ab
And maybe
Initio.
we could ask Gina in the control room. And we want to thank Gina Coe. She's in the control room with her daughter Bella, and they're running all the buttons for us. And we've also got Roy Cohen out here helping produce outside and running the cameras. And that's all volunteer work. They're doing a great job. So here's Attorney Francis T. Crimmins, and it's Frank Crimmins, Ab Initio Elder Law Solutions, LLC. And he's over at 247 Washington Street, Unit 2 in Stoughton. And isn't that next to the new restaurant that's just opening?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think they just
Amelia's.
opened. Yeah, Amelia's.
Yeah.
So we'll give them a push because they're a Stoughton business starting out,
There you
which
go.
is great.
Yeah.
But how do you think your time here can best be spent to help benefit families that need this expertise, that need to start addressing what could very quickly come upon them?
Well, I think everyone has to plan for how decisions are made for them if they're unable to make those decisions for themselves. So we're talking about assisting people in living. We're not necessarily talking about what happens when someone passes, all that, although that's part of what we do.
So that would be estate law planning?
Estate planning covers those type of things, the orderly disposition of your assets. But all of us have situations where if we're unable to care for our own medical needs or financial needs because we suffer a period of temporary disability or whatever, we have to line up somebody that can help us with that. And the law allows us to pick somebody. So for example, part of elder law is to deal with people and dealing with the potential that they may become incapacitated at some point in the future. And if they are incapacitated either because of a trauma from an accident or some type of disease or medical condition that afflicts them, they may be unable temporarily to care for their own health decisions and their own financial decisions. They'll take somebody that was in an automobile accident and they're convalescing in a rehab hospital for 6 months, and they're going through some extensive therapy, and some of that therapy may require them to take drugs that and other type of medications that affect their ability to make their own decisions, or just because of the pain in their recovery and pain management, they may be taking a regimen of drugs to help them deal with that pain and unable to make those decisions. Who makes those decisions for them? Who pays their bill? Who pays their mortgage or rent? Who pays their homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance? Who makes sure the life insurance premium's paid? Who makes sure their property taxes are paid and everything else? You need to pick somebody.
And what is that somebody called in law?
Well, that there's two things. On the health side, we're allowed to pick somebody to assist us with our health decisions when we're unable to. So on the health side, you have a healthcare proxy where somebody who is a principal picks somebody to be an agent for them, and if they're unable to make medical decisions, health decisions for themselves, the healthcare agent can do that for them. On the financial side...
Before we jump over there, all right, let me just slow it down, because there's a lot of information, and somebody watching who either this is first news or it's news that they haven't paid enough attention to. So a healthcare proxy is a form that you can get from an attorney that does this kind of work. You can, and they can help you fill it out, and you can designate an agent on that form. And then a hospital or a SNF, a skilled nursing facility, will then take advantage of the information in that form to help the family make decisions. Yes,
but there's no one form. There's no one form, but there are plenty of forms, and the Boston hospitals are trying to standardize the form. But what's important is what goes in the form, because first of all, you have to designate somebody you trust to be your healthcare agent, because that person will only perform duties when you are unable to do that. So you're not in a position to direct that person, because the healthcare agent will only have authority when you are unable to make decisions for yourself or cannot communicate for yourself, and that has to be a determination in writing by your treating physician. That's according to the statute. So there's a statute on this. It's Chapter 201D, as in Donald, of the general laws, and that provides for that. So in that situation, first you have to pick somebody that you trust that will carry out your decisions, even if they personally don't agree with those type of things, number one. Number two, you want to have a backup person in case the person you picked when you made the form isn't around to perform those duties. So that's the first thing, pick the right person. Number two, you have to let that person know that you picked them as that person. And to let them know, you have to start that conversation you're talking about, and you have to tell them what you want done. And to the extent that you can tell them what you want done, you can put that on a form. If you do not put that on the form...
The information that you want done.
Yes.
You just designate them.
Right. If you don't put that information, they'll do the best they can for you, but they can do a better job for you if you have the conversation with them as to what they would want done. Like, for example, in the situation of a terminal illness, it would be very important for your health agent to know what your thoughts are in the event you were facing a terminal illness and you had issues where you could only have your life sustained by procedures that required you to either be intubated for feeding purposes or put on a ventilator for breathing purposes, and decisions about resuscitation orders when you code out because of heart failure, those type of things. In those situations, it would be important for somebody to know that. And if you have a person that you want to do that, they need to know those type of things. Massachusetts is one of only 3 states in the nation that does not have a so-called right to die statute. So there's a document the state planners like to introduce to clients. They don't have to fill it out, but a document referred to as a living will, and we do not have a right to die statute, so there's no legal authority for a living will. But it's an opportunity for you to let your agent know what you want to have done in those type of situations. And it's very important because it's your words and it's your thoughts and it's not your agent's thoughts.
So as an example, if I were incapacitated in a bad accident, there was very little hope, and I would say like 99% little hope of recovery, medical staff rely on things, what they call typically DNRs and DNIs. Do not resuscitate and do not intubate. So in other words, they'll actually, before they just, when you code out the term, there's a problem with the machines dictate that, or record that you're no longer operating well in a hospital situation, and they will look up your records and say, does it say DNR, do not resuscitate? So that, and I think that would be a wish that I would have, is do not resuscitate, and you have to record that. Now, is any of this, in the construction industry, there's do-it-yourselfers, right? Would you say your best advice is, on a healthcare proxy, do not do it yourself, get some advice? Or do you say, go online, the online, is obviously filled with information, and at the very least do one online and then go see an attorney? Or do you say, do not mess with this, go see a good attorney? How do you feel about that?
I think people benefit from seeing an attorney, but you don't have to see an attorney, but you're well advised to see an attorney, because some of the steps you have, again, is number one, say you get a form. There's different ways of filling out that form, number one. Number two, you have to pick the right person. Then you have to have a backup for that right person. You have to have a conversation with that right person. An attorney can help you shape that conversation. Then once you fill out the form and you have a person that has accepted responsibility for that, you have to find out, what do you do with that form? Like it's no good if no one has the form when something happens.
Is there a recording place for it? A recording of all healthcare forms?
Well, you have to make sure, for example, like if you designate your wife to be your health agent, first of all, she has to accept that responsibility, and she has to have that form. She has to have that form accessible to her when something arises. Then you want your primary care physician to have a copy of that form. You want the hospital where the primary care physician would send you if something happened to have that form. You want those folks to make sure that's in your record. A lot of times hospitals and doctors are getting into a paperless type of a data storage system, and you want to make sure somebody has that record somewhere and can acknowledge that, because somebody will need that at some point.
Right.
Like, for example, you have somebody in our area and it's wintertime and they want to avoid a New England winter, so they go down to Florida for a couple of months.
Okay.
Somebody falls down and they break their hip and they're in a hospital, and all of a sudden, the health agent's up here. And the question is, someone at the hospital is getting an inquiry from somebody up here, a son and daughter. How's my mother doing? Do I need, well, I'm sorry, we can't tell you because we can only disclose that to...
So there are disclosure rules that also involve this decision.
Someone says, hey, look, I just want to know, do I have to hop on a plane and get down there to see my mother? Or is she all right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you have her call me? I'm sorry, Mr. Kelley, we're not able to discuss that with you.
Because you're not the healthcare, you're not
and
listed.
that type of thing. Someone needs a form.
Okay.
And that includes when you travel. someone needs the form.
So it's just one small part of what you're trying to share today.
No.
Right? So it's kind of, and you had said there's a whole, I don't want to get too stuck on just healthcare proxy.
Yeah,
right?
and it's not just for seniors. Like, for example, there's a lot of people in your listening audience that are probably going through a punch list right now, getting ready for their son or daughter to go off to college. Now, if somebody's getting ready to send their high school graduate off to upstate New York to go to college, they need to have a healthcare proxy. Now, once their child reaches the age of 18, they're an adult. And if something happens to their son or daughter, that college needs to know who is their healthcare proxy. And as you know, you can't even get your kids' grades. You can pay $50,000 a year for their tuition,
and they won't give you the grades.
And you want to see, are they passing their courses? And they won't tell you they're passing their courses, because you hear them say, well, you know, there's the Buckley Amendment, and we can't give that to you, sorry. Well, that applies to health decisions. So it starts early. It's not just with seniors. It starts when you have somebody who's a minor who becomes emancipated. They need one. Everybody in between needs one, and certainly elders need one.
By the way, I want to give you a little bit of an accolade here that the amount of knowledge you're sharing comes from 33 years as an attorney, and you also have been a judge for some 20 years, is that correct?
No, just shy of 18.
18, some 20? Yep. Okay, we'll go with 18. So all of this legal experience and all of the things that you've seen are helping to shape your practice, which is great. Just an idea, is a healthcare proxy, if someone said, I just want to get a healthcare proxy, is that $1,000? You know, is somebody really going to look at that and go, oh, that's too much? Is that the wrong amount? How should they look at it? Should it not be looked at as a money item?
No, that's a fair question. Attorneys that practice in this area charge fees, and most times a client wants to know what are you going to charge, and how long will this take? That's what the client wants to know. What the lawyer generally wants to know is, after a discussion of the relevant facts, first of all, who is the client, and what is the scope of the employment? And to get to that point, the lawyer can answer that question. But to give you a straight answer, healthcare proxy is not going to cost anybody $1,000. I mean, a basic estate plan for a single person in my office, a basic estate plan will charge somebody $750. Okay, but that's a basic.
That's a simple basic plan.
Yep,
That's not, if you have, let's say, apartment units and you have significant holdings,
that's
a totally different
that's
package.
separate, and that's why. But that's a fair question, and that's why you talk to the lawyer about that. But the answer to your question is, like, for example, someone will say, hey, you know, my wife and I are taking a trip, and you know, we never really got around to making a will.
Yeah.
So can you do a will for us, because we're taking off this weekend for a few days?
You're like, no, I can't do it in a weekend.
And first of all, you say thank you for coming in on Friday.
On Friday.
But the question
Good
is,
one, I like that.
You know, but the question is, you know, there's a greater chance that your friend who's driving you to the airport will get in an accident and you could get hurt, and you need that healthcare proxy or whatever. And those are the type of things you get into when you start asking somebody. You know, the will only kicks in when you pass away. And what would happen if you got in an accident and you had a decision to make? And who would take care of your kids that you're concerned about, obviously?
Right.
Those type of things. And you get into those documents like the healthcare proxy, like the durable power of attorney, and those type of things. And that is all part of the estate plan. I mean, the basics of an estate plan for documents on the health side are going to be a healthcare proxy. Separate and distinct from that will be a HIPAA waiver, and then that same living will we talked about. Those type of documents are basics for an estate plan. On the money side, a power of attorney is necessary for someone who's incapacitated, a will if somebody dies, and if somebody owns a piece of property, they should always have a homestead. That would be a no-brainer right there. Those are the basic type of documents for an estate plan. Then beyond that, if you have concerns about things like avoiding probate, taking advantage of estate tax deductions, nursing home liability, and the threat of an estate recovery lien on your property, those type of things. Those are where trust and those type of things come in. So there's a lot to it, but it's something a client can understand if they want to have the conversation. But the client has to initiate a conversation. Lawyers don't bring people in themselves, and it's a tough conversation because we're dealing with some serious issues, people's mortality and whatever. But if, that being said, if they don't have that conversation, certain decisions are still going to be thrust upon them.
And almost ripped away from them, wouldn't you say? If you don't do this, then your, more than your freedom, your entire like choice decision making is I don't know if stolen away is a good phrase, but is certainly taken away from you because the laws step in and preclude the choices that you might have made if you don't do something.
Well, your options get limited, and your options over time get limited. So there's a lot to it. It's actually very exciting because you're able to help people live their lives. I mean, things happen to people. People have health-related issues that can affect their finances as well as their care decisions, and certainly if you're competent, you make your own decisions.
I want to cue in, by the way, on something. Let me cue in. You said something that would be unexpected in the show, right? This is a show about elder care and elder law. You said it's very exciting to be able to help people. I mean, tell me more about the excitement for you of having a new customer come in, a new client, with this array of potential problems confronting them, and then why is it exciting again? Like, how is it that you
because you're helping people. When your head hits the pillow at night, you know you've helped people. I mean, the type of client that comes into my office has had an experience with either their own parent, and they went through scenarios with their parents' health care and the ability to pay for that and all the financing that went with that and how it affected the family finances, and how they took care of their parent, or somebody with special needs, or one of their friends or somebody near and dear to them went through an experience, and they don't want that to happen to them, and that's what drives them to come through the door. And other than that, the typical client in our type of a practice will be referred to us from another attorney or a financial advisor that know that having a plan is just an important thing for people to do on their little to-do list, and they have to get that done. Now this week, we're taping this at a time where there's a ongoing fundraising campaign going across the country to benefit ALS research.
Okay.
Now, ALS research is near and dear to my heart because we've had a family member that suffered through ALS, and ALS stands for arterial lateral sclerosis, or that ALS, that Lou Gehrig's disease, and people are going through this ice bucket challenge, and I bet there isn't anybody watching this at home who hasn't received a challenge to either donate or go through that ice bucket challenge. And one of the things about that disease or I should say is that you maintain your cognitive ability. You know what's going on. You lose your control over your limbs and your motor skills because of this destruction to your nervous system that affects those type of movements. But you know what's going on, and which is why it's a very tough disease. And I'm sure you remember one of the governors in this state, Paul Cellucci, was a victim of ALS, and there are a lot of people affected by that. So you have a situation there where if somebody has ALS, they know what's going on. They're competent. They can make their own financial decisions. but they need help, and so they have to designate people to help them out. And the cost of that care can be exorbitant, you know, and so depending on what they have for resources and what they have for other coverages, they can need assistance there. So, you know, there's a lot of things like that. So when you say, why is it exciting? We have people that have a problem that's weighing on them greatly, and we can't, you know, we can't cure the affliction that their loved one has, but we can assist them with a way of dealing with the issue and taking the load off them by hooking them up with the type of people that can assist them with healthcare decisions and financial decisions. You know, when you have a situation at home, a lot of times, if even in a spousal couple, you know, the spouses might not agree on what should be done, and that's why I say, from the lawyer's point of view, the question is, hey, who's the client? Is it one of you or both of you? Now, a lot of times, if it's both of them, then you have a situation where they can have kids, and the kids might not agree on what the course of action should be. So sometimes you have to bring in other people to give an opinion for people to use as a frame of reference and accept it or reject it, but at least consider it, and carving out a course of action to deal with that.
So this comes from experience, I can tell.
Yeah.
You've had situations where this stalemated decision making, and you've said, well, let's look at the stakeholders, and could we draw some more relevant, let's say, opinions from those stakeholders to help you?
Yeah, if somebody has 3 kids, and one of them lives next door, and one of them's in the Midwest, and one of them's down in Florida, it's the kid next door that's going to deal, for the most part, the
Very
burden
true.
of taking care of their parent than the other two, and the other two might not agree with what the sibling next door is, and you have all these other issues, but the idea is to help the client. And clients have situations where they have medical situations to deal with, and those medical situations require money. So either you can private pay, you have insurance to cover it, or you have to qualify for public financing.
All right. Let me redirect us a little bit. We've gone over healthcare proxy, and I think we've made it hopefully very clear to the audience that either get it done yourself or go see an attorney. Perhaps come see Frank Crimmins. He's got an office that's ready to work with you, but get it done one way or another. There's this sense that more needs to be done. How do we ratchet? If you could motivate everybody, what phrase, what way, what ice bucket challenge, what way could you ratchet up this idea for everyone to do some estate planning? Is there any thoughts like that? I mean, is that something that drives you crazy anyways? Like, why aren't more people doing this? Or,
well,
because I know it's a huge area that's left to the last minute. So how do we change that a little?
Well, you never have enough friends. You never have enough funds in the bank. You never have enough orange ties, and you never have enough insurance. I believe in insurance. I'll make the analogy this way. People should have a plan. Then you hope like heck you never have to use it. Now let me give you an analogy. Somebody went down the Cape for the weekend. They hope like heck they don't come back to find out there was a thunderstorm and a tree went down. It went through their roof, and they have water damage in addition to all the other damage from the tree. But they know they have a homeowner's policy that they probably haven't read for 2 years that will cover them for that. You know, estate planning is the same way.
So it's an insurance for you.
Right. It's a direction of how you're going to deal with life's exigencies if they happen, and you hope like heck it never happens.
So you wouldn't go without home insurance. Don't go without estate planning. Get your healthcare proxy. You also mentioned durable power of attorney. Tell us a little bit about the financial side. We talked a little bit about the medical side. Let's just step to the two. We talked about two sides, right? We have the medical care side of elder law and elder care, and now we also have the financial side. So let's just talk about a durable power of attorney, so the audience who doesn't know about this could gain just a handle on it.
Power of attorney is a type of law that is principal and agency law. It's a type of a contract. Principal is allowed to pick an agent to have a certain amount of authority, from a limited authority to unlimited authority for their financial affairs. So for example, there may be people in the audience that went to refinance their mortgage, and the day they had to close, they had to be out of town on business. They gave their attorney a limited power of attorney to sign their name on documents at the bank for their mortgage. Okay. That's an example of a limited power of attorney. When you see your CPA at tax time, you probably sign a limited power of attorney for your CPA to either file records electronically.
Electronic records, yeah, sure.
Or to get an extension on your behalf and things like that. That's an example of a limited power of attorney. If you are dealing with an illness and you have financing issues and have all the obligations that everybody pays month to month that everybody knows in their household, if you cannot do those type of things for yourself, somebody still has to do those things. I remember last year when there was the marathon bombings in Boston on Patriots Day, and there were people there that were laid up in hospitals for a significant period of time.
Who had no idea they were going to be.
That's right.
I mean, these are people that were the healthiest of the healthy running a marathon.
Right,
yep.
and they needed people to exercise authority on their behalf for their finances. Now, I'm not pandering to you, but you're a business person, you've been active, you've been successful, you're an entrepreneur, and I don't know how you organize your businesses, but if you have a corporation, and if you have a corporation with certain people delegated with authority, if you got laid up in a hospital for 3 months, there would be other people in your corporation, maybe a vice president or a treasurer or somebody like that, that could act for you. But there are a lot of people in business that are sole proprietors, or there might be two brothers in a partnership or things like that. And if somebody's laid up, the question still becomes, who acts for them? Like, what are we talking about? Someone has a heart attack, someone has a stroke, someone has an accident. All of a sudden they're in a hospital and they have a business enterprise to run. Who will act for them? They need to designate somebody in a power of attorney.
Right.
If they're competent to do that, they can do it today. But if they lose their competency, they cannot do that. Now, life does not stop because they do not have a power of attorney, but somebody's going into a probate and family court to get a conservatorship, because a conservator is somebody appointed to be in charge of someone's financial affairs.
And that's not going to happen tomorrow. That's going to happen in the due course of whatever the workload for the court is.
Right.
So that can be
delayed. Right, and it's public, and it's public process, and you have to notify heirs at law and things like that, and it costs more money than seeing somebody about a power of attorney. The point is, though, today I can do some things. Tomorrow I might not be able to do some things. That's why you do it today. Today I might be able to get life insurance. A year from now, I might not be able to get life insurance. Everyone's had an experience where they've had a friend of theirs in business that's been chasing them for 20 years about getting some life insurance,
yes.
You know, and finally you get to age I'm at, and you go, you know what, I better call that guy up. You know, so they come to your house and they take an application, and they do some paperwork, and 3 weeks later they call you up and they go, hey, good news, I got all that paperwork back from the company, when can I see you? So they come by and they go, hey, the good news is I got the paperwork back and all that, but I guess you had a little cholesterol thing.
Yeah,
and the blood pressure's a little high, and you got some stuff. And don't worry, I can still get your policy, but that rate I told you about 3 weeks ago.
It's on group 3 now.
You know, that rate's gone, and we have to talk about another thing. And some people find out they're not even insurable.
Yeah,
it's a bad analogy, but by analogy, I'm saying you do the plan now because you can, because we don't know about tomorrow. So you do a plan, and then you hope like heck. You never need it, but it gives you peace of mind. And I would say this, that peace of mind when you're a parent is worth a lot. That peace of mind when you have in a relationship with a committed spouse or a committed life partner, and you have kids especially, that peace of mind is worth a lot, and that's why people are compelled to do it. This is actually like buying a life insurance for those left behind. That's an act of love on your part for those you care about. Obviously, you're not taking it with you. You're providing funds for people after you're gone, if that happens. Insurance companies don't want you to go. They want you to live forever and keep on paying forever. I mean, that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
And you know, so all I'm saying is, you have a plan in place. It's one of the things you check off. Hey, I got that done. Then you get on with living. I mean, it's not the favorite thing you're going to do this week or any week. It won't even crack the top 10, but it's a thing that people should do. Get a plan in place, get it out of the way. They get that off their back. They go on living, and if something happens, they're prepared. That's what we do.
Gina's back again. She's running the show out back. Gina, could you put Frank's information up again? I want the audience to be able to, write down if they can. So Frank's Law Office, Ab Initio Elder Law Solutions. And if you can leave it there just for a minute so people could jot things down, Gina. Ab Initio, okay. Almost no one knows what that means. Can you help us?
It's a Latin word, means from the beginning.
From the beginning.
And it's obviously not a word that a marketeer or a person in marketing would say, that's a good thing for you.
Great choice there, Frank. No one knows what you are.
Because nobody knows what that means. But when I set up my office, and you see it's a LLC, there was a decision.
Thank you, Gina.
What sort of business organization, should I organize myself in? And I picked a name with it. First of all, I wanted a name to connote to members of the bar that I had a firm that was dealing in this area. It's not a retail name. We, again, get most of our work through referrals, number one.
You're not against changing that, are you?
No.
Okay, so we can get you some business. It'd be great.
Oh yeah. No,
all right.
No, but that was the idea of that, and this ab initio, or in other words, from the beginning, this Latin word is a word that all lawyers get introduced to in law school. And for example, if you had a contract with somebody and they were 16 years old, and you found out that the legal age to enter into a contract was 18, and you had some kid that talked to a telephone company about getting the latest and greatest smartphone, you could void that contract, void ab initio, because the child lacked the capacity to enter into that contract.
I love this show. This is great. So the audience has just learned one. There's an example
that type
where
of thing.
Ab initio is a great knowledge piece in law, and you're trying to show that from the beginning we can get you started, and we will take you through to the end, perhaps.
Well, the idea was if I had enough time to do a marketing piece, it would be, the idea was, call a lawyer when at the beginning of the problem. Don't wait till it gets to be a big problem, because lawyers can help people with their problems. They can point you in the right direction. You can save a lot of money. When you keep something small, just like anything else, you manage the risk, keep it small, and you can avoid a lot of stress.
Yeah, always confront problems. Yeah. I agree with that.
There are people out there, when people have this angst about, what do I do with my parent? I don't know this medical stuff. I do this or that for a living, but this medical stuff and health stuff, I don't know about it, and I don't know if where they should go, what type of care they need. There are healthcare professionals out there that are great. There are people like geriatric care managers. Geriatric care managers. You can look it up. You can Google them. You can find out these people available, and they're basically nursing professionals that are licensed, that deal with this type of population, and they know the needs of the population, and they can assist you with accessing those resources that you need to care for your parent or loved one. The town of Stoughton, for example, has a great resource. The public health department in this town is organized, and the town of Stoughton has its own visiting nurse association.
Yep.
Now that's incredible. There's only 2 towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that have their own visiting nurse association. You've had them on your show. They're wonderful, and they're a hidden resource. They do a great job. They can come into a home and meet with people to say, gee, my spouse has had a tough turn of events, and I just don't know what to do. Here's what I'm dealing with, and I can't even get out of the house. I mean, you know, I have this issue and that issue, and I'm going crazy just trying to, I can't even get out to get my groceries anymore because of the needs we have right in the home. You know, where can I turn? They can tell you. They can tell you,
Sure.
and they're great. They're great. You know,
So let me just stop you right there.
Yeah.
Gina, if we can, could we run, Gary LaPierre's got some good message spots for us, the public messages. I'm wondering if we could run those.
Hi, it's Gary LaPierre, and the crew wants to thank Maxie's Delicatessen. That's at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. They're 781-341-1662. American Cancer Society, yes, they're looking for volunteers. Drive cancer patients to and from their treatments. 1-800-ACS-6662. Or just go to www.cancer.org. Ilsa Mark's Food Pantry in St. Anthony's Free Market, 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher. That's at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. Meals on Wheels. Just ask for Jessica. You'll find her at 781-344-8882, extension 2. Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business, they tell us. 27 Rose Glen Street, Stoughton, 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes in Stoughton. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m. It's on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 28. All comments and suggestions welcome. Contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Community Forum showtimes in Easton. Mondays at 9 p.m., Tuesday at 8 a.m., Wednesdays 3 p.m., Saturday 10 a.m. And that too, Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 22. Samaritans, they're at 41 West Street on the 4th floor in Boston, 02111. Their phone number is 617-536-2460. 24-hour helplines for Samaritans, and the number is 877-870-HOPE. That's 877-870-4673. Samaritans, you can find them at 800-252-TEEN. That's 252-8336. Or find them online at SamaritansHope.org.
And we have a few more public announcements. We have Stoughton Farmers Market every Saturday at the First Parish Universalist Church at 790 Washington Street, Stoughton Center. It's a great way to get together in the community. It's a non-profit volunteer run, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's rain or shine. We have a couple of farms there, Lane Gardens Farms, O'Brien's Bakery, Fresh Catch Seafood. Always have live music as well. So it's a good time and a good way to connect with the community, keeping the business in Stoughton, which I think is going to help in the long run. Also, we have Support Our Library Association. The library is at 84 Park Street. It's one of the best libraries in the state. SOLA, S-O-L-A, Stoughton at gmail.com if you have questions, looking for support always. The phone number is 781-341-0856. And I also want to thank Roy Cohen, Jeff Pickett, Gina Coe, Bella Coe out in the background. We got all these people helping us to produce the show. And I want to thank Frank Crimmins for taking his expertise and basically just giving it out to you. I mean, you go to college, and if you watch one of these videos, you're paying for it. So I really appreciate that you're sharing. We've talked about the importance of a healthcare proxy. We've talked about the importance of a durable power of attorney. Generally, the idea that you wouldn't go without insurance, don't go without estate planning. Let's talk a little bit about wills. A will is your way of communicating after you're dead what's going to happen to your stuff, right? And being able to do that instead of having limited choices by not doing it. So tell me a little bit about that.
People should have a will because it allows for an orderly disposition of their assets after they're gone. So you have a will for basically 3 reasons. Number 1, to make sure the people you decide that you wish to participate in your estate get the property in the share that you have designated. So that's one reason, the disposition of your assets. Number two, in a will, you get to pick who you want to be in charge of your estate. That person is called a personal representative. There was a change in the law in Massachusetts. The law changed in 2009, and on March 31 of 2012, the law that governs state administration changed. So those Latin words they used to use, like executor, executrix, have gone out the window, and it's now a personal representative. But that person is the one in charge of your estate. So that's the second big reason to have a will. And the third big reason to have a will would be you'd get to name a guardian, a conservator, or both for minor children.
What's a will cost?
It depends on the type of will. It depends on the provisions, if the will has a trust provision or not in it, if a guardianship or not in it. Lawyers are either going to charge you a flat fee or they're going to charge you hourly for that. So there's going to be a range, but a will that does just the basics, you can probably have somebody do that for you for $500 or less. And other types of wills that contemplate significant types of control of assets are going to need other type of provisions. For example, let's say somebody has a minor child. Let's say that child is 12. Now, anything left for that child is going to be managed by their guardian, number one, and you may have other people that you don't want to give the property outright to their guardian. You may want to have the property held in trust, and then when they hit a certain age, distribute the property for them. So a lot of people feel that 18, although emancipated, is a little too tender in age to handle property, so they may want a trustee to manage the property in trust for a certain period of time. And if there are different people in your class of people you want to help out, that will can be in effect for some amount of time, and it may pour into other types of trust. So it all depends on that.
So it could get far, obviously far more expensive the more intricate it is.
Yeah, and it depends on your assets. Like for example, you have plenty of people in the trades. Let's say you had somebody in the trades and they have a small corporation for tax purposes. They have a corporation for liability. And
they have an excavator, let's say, that's worth $250,000.
Yeah,
and a property at home that's worth $300,000.
No, but even on their business, they organized a corporation. They own 100% share of the stock in that corporation. They die. Who takes the shares of that corporation? Who takes that over?
That needs to be decided.
Who runs that? Do they liquidate that? Do they just sell it for equipment? Do they sell it as an ongoing business? All those type of things and everything else that goes with that. But a will only governs probate property, and that's the biggest thing people should know. A will only governs probate property,
okay.
And not all property is probate property.
So then, we kind of have to backtrack. So you're going to teach a little class. You also teach at Massasoit, do you not?
I used to.
You
I used to for a
and
dozen,
you taught law.
Yes, for a dozen years.
So we're going to jump a little bit in here and let you teach what is probate versus, I don't even know the other type.
Well, non-probate.
Okay, probate and
So
non-probate.
all assets are either probate assets or non-probate assets. A probate asset is a property, the title of which is in your name alone. Okay, so let me give you an example. You and your wife have a bank account at Bank X, jointly owned with right of survivorship.
Okay.
Okay, something happens to you, your wife takes over that bank account without the need to go to the probate and family court.
Okay.
You have a bank account just in your name. Something happens to you. That's a probate asset.
Because now, unless you've taken care of it sooner, no one knows what to do with it. It has to be decided.
Unless you have put on a transfer on death provision or payable on death provision onto that account in your name will go according to your will, if you have a will, or it will go according to the laws of intestacy the laws that govern people without a testament or without a will.
Okay.
Now, okay, so let me give you an example. An IRA. An IRA, by contract, will leave property to some beneficiary. It doesn't have to go through the probate and family court.
Okay.
Okay, that's by contract. Most life insurance, not all, will be a non-probate asset. Because by contract, if somebody dies, the insured life person dies, the death benefit will go to somebody else, but it could go to somebody's estate. In life insurance, there are 3 names that are important. Who owns the policy and has the obligation to pay a premium, that's one person. Whose life is insured, second person. Who's the beneficiary, singular or plural, third person. They can all be different.
Yeah.
But most times it's set up for somebody else. But here's what can happen. You have in a will that all my property goes to Steve Kelley if he survives me, okay? And so according to a will, you see a will that says everything goes to the producer of this show, Steve Kelley, if he survives me. And let's say it's Roy Cohen's will. Mm-hmm. And then let me say that Jeff Pickett has a power of attorney for Roy Cohen's affairs.
By the way, Roy's getting edgy and Jeff's getting happy right now, but go ahead.
Okay, so Jeff Pickett goes to the bank under the power of attorney, and he takes all of Roy's property and he puts it in his own bank account. And then something happens to Roy, and you say, hey, where's my stuff? I got Roy's will. It says here, all his stuff goes to me. And they find out that the $2 million he had, that Jeff, is all gone to Jeff.
I can't believe he'd do that.
But that can happen. That can happen. And when you hear about probate disputes,
Yeah.
it's not so much that the will had terms that gave people a curveball. It's before somebody passed, the person that had control over that person who later dies, their financial affairs did a little curveball. So what do I mean by that? Let's say there's somebody that has...
Oh, we're going to have to be quick, though. I got to tell you,
Somebody-
we only have about less than a minute.
Somebody has 3.2 kids. If someone dies, you expect everyone gets a third. But when somebody dies, people say, hey, here's your amount. And someone says, that's my third? If that's my 1/3, that Ma only had that much. Ma had that much. What happened to that much? I'm only getting this much.
So it becomes important to have done all of this.
Because somebody could have taken
All
the
right.
property
Let's
before
round up the
somebody
show.
dies.
Fran, we need to do another show.
Yep.
I'd like to do something more on wills.
Yep.
If hopefully you'd be willing to do that. But I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Using your many viewpoints as an attorney, as a judge, as a teacher, and as a family person yourself. It's very wonderful to hear you sharing this wonderful, I don't know if you want to call it advice. We want to probably stay away from that, but just thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks, Steve.
All right.
I enjoyed it. Thank
Good.
you.